So tonight we're going to talk about how you can possibly lose 50 pounds in 3 months. So first off, the average person would not be able to lose 50 pounds in 3 months. This is a difficult task, and I would never advise anyone to go about weight loss this way. My advice, lose weight gradually and work on increasing your muscle mass and increasing your strength. That's the first thing I just want to say. So, what can you do to improve your fat burning capacity? Here's my advice. Let me just adjust this light. Number one, as you would see on all fitness pages, you need to be in a calorie deficit. When you're in a calorie deficit, it allows your body to use the stores to burn fat. Hi, Miss Beecher. Thanks for joining. It allows your body to use the stores to burn fat. So in other words, because you're in a deficit you're in a deficit of calories, what happens is that your body normally stores the surplus of calories in the form of glycogen in the muscle and the liver. But if you're in a deficit, it's forced to break down this glycogen, and it's also forced to break down adipose in a process called gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is a process by which the body forms glucose using free fatty acids, which are found in your fat or adipose. And as a result of this, you burn fat. Your fat cells decrease in size, not in number, but in size. So here's the thing. Going in a calorie deficit will seriously have a positive impact on your fat burning capacity. Another thing that you have to do when you are eating, you need to log your food. All of the fitness experts, all the fitness pros, they'll tell you straight up that they write down what they eat. They write down what they drink from Monday straight through. And they are able to log that and compare it to what their weight is on the day. By doing so, they are able to determine what foods cause them to put on weight and what foods cause them to lose weight. So by doing this, you are able to figure out what foods especially if you're diabetic or hypertensive, you're able to figure out what foods will cause a sugar spike, what foods will cause your sugars to remain stable, and you will also determine how your body responds to certain foods. So you have to log all the foods that you eat. And that is one of the tips that fitness experts will tell you. Number 3, include weightlifting in your regime. Weightlifting is very important. And we're talking lift as heavy and as safely as you can lift. This is to improve muscle mass, improve your overall health, increase blood circulation, increase your hormones, because even squatting, especially in men, causes a spike in testosterone. Testosterone, as you know, is a muscle-building hormone. So you have to do what we will call the anabolic exercises, so squat. Squatting is a big one. That has to be included in your weight loss regime. Cardio has to be done, but cardio is not simply just getting up and walking. Cardio is walking with a purpose, timing yourself, ensuring that you are improving each time. So you're improving your cardiovascular reserves. So you have to improve. If you have walked a mile for 10 minutes, well, make it a realistic time, for 20 minutes, and it took you 20 minutes, and it's been 2 years since you're doing this and you have not improved, then you need to pick up the pace and see if you can walk it in 90 minutes and 30 seconds. That's what I mean. You have to try to challenge yourself to improve your cardiovascular reserve. Another thing too, when it comes to consuming vegetables, this is it. We're on to the diet again. Vegetables, green vegetables, that's your friend. Vegetables are packed with antioxidants. They're packed with cellulose and fiber. And because of this, the fiber will keep you fuller for a longer period of time. We're talking whole grain as well too. We're talking oats. Oats also contains a lot of fiber. Anything with a lot of fiber will help you. And that is what you have to look at when it comes to your weight loss. Foods that will keep you fuller for a longer period of time, and therefore you will eat less. So if it's a situation where you like to eat a lot of processed food, one of the issues with processed food is that it breaks down so quickly because it's already refined. Okay, let's quick lesson. So sucrose is made up of two sugars. It's actually a disaccharide. But a regular sugar like is a monosaccharide. If it's already a monosaccharide, it will break down a lot quicker than a complex carbohydrate, which would have branches and branches of different sugars joined together. Your body has to break down these sugars, which are then processed into glycogen for storage and also for into the form of pyruvate for energy. So if you consume lots of refined sugars, you don't give the body any work. The body just goes straight and uses the refined sugars that you have consumed. And as a result of this, because it's refined, a lot of it gets stored as fat because chances are it's a surplus of calories you're consuming. So it's stored as fat, stored as glycogen. You don't want that. You want complex carbohydrates that are slow releasing, take a long time to break down. So we're talking sweet potato, Irish potatoes, yam, breadfruit, quinoa, chickpeas. These are just to name a few. Complex carbohydrates, legumes. These are perfect when it comes to fat burning. Another thing too, your beverages. Your beverages matter. A lot of people don't really count the calories that they get from drinking. But you have to be careful what you drink, because if you're consuming soda, if you're consuming fruit juices, even some of the so-called sugar, the so-called health foods, these health foods sometimes are packed with sugar, like granola bars are packed with sugar. You have to make sure that you do your own health juices. Don't depend on someone else to make your health juices, because remember, they are trying to market their product as healthy, so they have to make sure that it tastes good. So sometimes they do, not all, but sometimes they actually do add sugar. I seldom see people add like sugar substitutes. Most times they add lots of honey, and sometimes even the honey itself, the producer puts sugar in the honey. So you're getting sugars left, right, and center. So you have to really be careful where you get your products from. You have to be careful how you make them, who makes them, and that's how you escape consuming extra carbohydrates unbeknownst to you. So that's another thing. So when it comes to your beverages, err on the side of caution and make sure you make your own. People add natural sweeteners like mango. They have a lot of sugar. Banana has a lot of sugar too. Now, if you're a person who has a sweet tooth, consume the sweet juice or the juice itself prior to your workout. It will give you a little energy, a little boost in the workout. Another thing too, intermittent fasting. People have been asking me about it. It works, as I've been saying, but it has to be done correctly. Now, if it's a situation where you're going to consume carbohydrates in a surplus, even if you're doing intermittent fasting, it's pointless. So if you're going to do intermittent fasting, you still have to be in a calorie deficit. Intermittent fasting is a supplementary technique to being in a calorie deficit. Meaning, if you're supposed to eat 2,000 calories for the day, you need to eat 1,700 calories for the day. Now, if you're consuming 1,700 calories while doing intermittent fasting, you could potentially accelerate your weight loss. Now, don't think for a second that consuming or doing intermittent fasting will automatically help you lose weight. That's not how it works. I actually know people who do intermittent fasting all the time, and they are still overweight. And I've said this so many times. That's because they're not doing it correctly. Their portions are too large, and they just don't understand how to do it correctly. Now, here's the thing that I read, and I actually saw on TikTok too. Japan has some of the longest livers in the world, longest life expectancy, or the highest life expectancy in the world. And do you know why that is? Japanese people, one, practice portion control. So they do not eat till they're stuffed. They eat till they are satisfied. Two, they exercise Three, their healthcare system is pretty good too. So the government actually covers portions like 70% of their healthcare costs when they are admitted for certain procedures. But the interesting part about that is that they probably are able to do this because the population is not obese. Japanese people also consume large amounts of fish, large amounts. And as you know, fish is not as fatty as other meats. So we're talking, they consume some of the highest amounts of fish worldwide. So Japanese people have this thing down to science. A lot of Japanese people cycle. A lot of Japanese people don't smoke. A lot of Japanese people drink, but not heavily. So that's food for thought. Now, in terms of translating this into Jamaica and into the African diaspora on a whole, it is possible, but we have to make the change. So some of the things that we can do, practice walking. I mean, easier said than done because Japan is nowhere near as hot as Jamaica or the Caribbean. But in the evening we can walk, and sometimes then again it's safety too. All right, walk in your house. From a safety point of view, walk up and down the corridor, walk around as much as you can. Try not to lie down as much as you can. At work, walk up and down as much as you can as well too. Well, within limits and reason, of course. Sedentary lifestyle is not cutting it. Also, Japan doesn't eat a lot of fast food either. That's another thing too I was looking at. They don't eat a lot of fried and oily foods. They do eat a lot, but their food is usually pretty healthy. And they don't overcook their vegetables. That's another thing that's really incredible with Japan. So Japan, they tend to cook their vegetables for a minute, and the vegetables therefore having a lot of the nutrients. People of African descent know that we overcook everything. And this is cultural. We love our vegetables soft. We love our fruits, if we do cook them, soft. And we love our meat well done, like really well done. If you see anything red in the plate, it's an issue. Now, with meat, we have to be very careful. So I agree with cooking our meat properly. But vegetables, a minute is fine, especially like broccoli, cauliflower, to give a few examples. If you cook your vegetables for too long, a lot of the nutrients will not be present in the vegetables. And that's something that you have to keep in mind. So cooking and how you cook is important. Broasting your stuff. Instead of frying your meats, broast it. And I'm not saying not to eat any fast food. But I'm saying if you can limit the fast food that you consume to maybe once a month or even farther than that. Some people eat it all once a year, twice a year. That's fine. That's totally fine. But it should never be a situation where the majority of your calories come from fast food, fries, and chicken. There are people who eat this every week. Some people eat fast food every single day. This is not good. Not good at all. Our goal should be to eat correctly and to drink correctly, exercise, and rest. This just brings me to my next point. Sleeping. I know a lot of people suffer from insomnia. Insomnia can be hard, especially if you're stressed out, you're going to have issues sleeping. But here's the thing. You are going to find it very difficult to lose weight, especially if you are not sleeping at night. You need 7 to 8 to 9 hours of sleep, depending on what works for you. And sleep is not cumulative in the sense where you can sleep an hour now, then sleep an hour 8 later, and you sleep 4 hours later on, and then you add it up, and it's all good. If you've ever noticed that when, especially somebody who works shift, I've worked shift before as a medical doctor, and I can tell you, working shift and then sleeping an hour during the shift and then getting up and functioning again, the next day you're mashed up. You really can't function. So that brings you to my point. Try to get your 7 hours. It's hard. I know if you have kids, it's hard. If you have a very busy job, it's hard. But it all comes down to mental health, because missing sleep can actually contribute to decreasing your life expectancy. So you have to be careful. Also, so 7 to 8 hours of sleep is a hormone called cortisol. When you do not sleep, this hormone is high. When it's high, it can cause you to gain weight, can affect you overall. So you're functioning throughout the day, your brain functioning, your brain functions, all of them can decrease as a result of you not sleeping correctly. So that's very important. Other points to make: Japan or Japanese people tend to go to the doctor regularly. And I know there's a gross or mass distrust in the people of African descent in our community of medical doctors, but you have to go. And there's so many doctors to choose from. You do not have to stick to one. There's so many people here who have multiple doctors, and that is totally fine. You go to one, you have a discussion, just make sure you tell the other one what the previous doctor did, and that's how you have to go about your health. Like when I talk about my parents and my mom, she goes to the doctor. If something bothers her, she's going to go to the doctor immediately, and that is how we have to be. Something bothers us, we have to go to the doctor. And if you look at Japan, literally, if something bothers them, they will go to the doctor. 70% of their healthcare is covered by the government. Now think about it for a second, right? Where else? Yes, you can argue that we don't have the resources like Japan. Yes, you can argue that our healthcare system is not like Japan, but our healthcare is actually very cheap. I know your people are going to say that's not true. Right here in Jamaica, healthcare is very cheap compared to other places. You can go to KPH with an emergency procedure and get it done the same night. Now, here's the problem that I've realized is happening. The reason why you might not get an early appointment for a hernia repair, if you go to accidental emergency, you might not be seen right away, is because there's a bunch of people out there that don't take their medication, and when they come to accidental emergency pop down, guess who takes up your slot? That person has to be seen because they are sicker than you. And that's not how the healthcare system is supposed to function. Let me give you a story. I have been trying from since October last year to get, my goal was for 2,000 Jamaicans to sign up to the program and to lose weight. And in the last, if I count the number of people I've spoken to last month, I've spoken to 300 people and only maybe 30 or 40 of them were from Jamaica. The rest of them were from all over the world. Some of them were people who are from Jamaica but living abroad. I say that to say this. The people who are from Jamaica that live abroad tend to value healthcare more because they live abroad and see what's going on in their healthcare system. So they're determined not to get sick, because if they get sick, they're going to have to spend a pretty penny. The people here, they know that if they get sick and they go to KPH, or public as it's called, or their local hospital, they're going to get free medication and they're good. That's not how the mentality should be. So therefore, if you stump your toe in the middle of the night and you need to have your toenail removed, say for instance in a procedure, and to be bandaged and sent home, you're going to go to KPH and sit down for the whole night, because they're going to have to deal with all the other emergencies like gunshot wounds and people who are diabetic and very ill. Sorry, so they're not going to see you that same night. You may very well have to come back the next morning. I've seen instances where people have had cuts and had to come to private the day after because it's so busy. And it's not us that is our problem is not us. Our problem is the population needs to understand that the only way we can make things better is by changing our lifestyle, which means losing weight, exercising, taking your medication, going to your doctor's visits, making a time for yourself. That is the only way we are going to get out of this issue. That's the only way we're going to reduce the number of people. Most of the admissions, most of the visits to the hospital on a day-to-day basis are as a result of to accident emergencies specifically, are as a result of non-communicable diseases. Most. I think at one point in time, the minister, not this minister of health, the minister before, which I think was Fenton Ferguson, I think he reported 60% of admissions was from non-communicable diseases. Can you imagine? So you remove the 60% and then you remove a lot of the trauma. You actually have an empty accident and emergency. And this is not unique to Jamaica. We're talking throughout the Caribbean, Trinidad, Jamaica, Barbados, throughout the Caribbean. I've lived a lot of places, and I can tell you, it's the same thing throughout the Caribbean. And we need to figure out what we can do. Now, here are some other tips that I think we need to practice. If you're diabetic, you need to be a scribe. You need to write down what you eat. Check your sugar regularly because that's the only way you're going to figure out what works for you. And everything, like for instance, some diabetics can eat certain foods and their sugar is not going to spike. That's just how your body functions. And there's some diabetics who will eat another type of food and their sugar will spike. And that's why you have to be a scribe. I know people that are diabetics and they did everything that they could to make sure that they did not lose toes, did not lose limbs, and they died with everything intact. They died with their vision, they died with their toes, they died with their feet, they died with their hands, no issues, no complications, they just died. And that's what I want for our race, our population, because we are the most affected. Every textbook will tell you Black people are more likely to have complications from diabetes. Black people are more likely to die from cancer. Black people are more likely to be obese. Black people are more likely or less likely to seek health care, or less likely to present early with many types of cancers, with heart attack, stroke, you name it. We are less likely to present to accident and emergency at an early time. And that's something that we can change. So here are some more tips. If you're diabetic, you need to check your feet. There's a mirror you can buy on Amazon. You look at the bottom of your feet. You also need to check your feet daily to see if you have any rubbing of the flesh on the toes. You have to check and see if your shoes have any holes in them, because if they have a hole, you might have stood on a needle as well too. Also, you need to get your eyes checked yearly. You need to get your teeth checked every 6 months, sometimes even more frequently than that, depending on what's going on in your mouth. Any tooth that you have in your mouth that needs to come out, it needs to be extracted. And I know you're going to say it's so expensive and all of that. But let me tell you something. I have a friend that sent me a bill today. And when I looked at the bill for dental care abroad, I was flabbergasted. I cannot tell you. Like, again, dental care here in Jamaica is actually a lot cheaper than you would think. And sometimes you have to make the sacrifice now to prevent having to make a serious sacrifice. You don't want to wait. People die from dental infections, I know this might seem like a rare occasion, but it happens. People have died from serious dental infections, and most times it is people who are immunocompromised. Once you're diabetic, you are considered, especially if you're uncontrolled diabetic, you are considered immunocompromised, meaning your immune system is not functioning correctly. Now, hypertension, I know I haven't touched on hypertension. Here's the thing with hypertension. Stress can raise it, not sleeping can raise it, caffeine can raise it, salt can raise it, MSG can raise it, just to name a few. Not exercising can raise it, obesity can raise it. So if you lower your weight, you stay away from smoking, you lower your salt, you lower your MSG, you lower your consumption of processed foods, you exercise, you take your medication, you slim down, you exercise, as I mentioned, exercise, you will notice that your pressure will come down. But I want you to understand how serious hypertension is too as well. Hypertension can cause something called aneurysms in your brain. You can drop dead. Recently, we lost in the fitness industry, there's a gentleman by the name of, I think it's Joey Fit. His name is, I think is, I can't remember his name, but he died of a brain aneurysm. Now, it doesn't mean that he died, he had hypertension, but aneurysm, if an aneurysm can occur in somebody who's pretty healthy, can you imagine in a person who's hypertensive? You can have berry aneurysms, regular aneurysms in your brain, rupture. You can have rupture of eye blood vessels, rupture of blood vessels in your eye. You can have issues with your brain, so you can have a stroke. People who have hypertension actually have increased risk of memory issues. Now, I don't know about you, but I want to keep my memories for as long as I possibly can. I was actually talking to someone today and I said to them, women usually live longer than men, but I'm going to do my best to live as long as women as I can. So if the life expectancy of a woman is 70, I want to live past that. And we can do it. Men just need to start taking care of themselves. Don't let the belly come on. So you need to keep your belly small, nice and you don't have to be a six-pack, but you can keep your belly nice and flat, men and women. That's one of the things you have to aim for. You see that belly? That belly is that's the killer. Once it's over 40 inches, that's the killer. Another thing too, women keep a belly under 35 inches. And I'm not saying if you have, for instance, if you have fibroids, or if you have puffiness because of your menses, or if you have children or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fat, because people have bellies for different reasons. I'm saying if you noticeably have a large tummy as a result of fat, that is a big problem. There are a lot of causes of a large tummy, but yes, you can find a way to bring down the tummy. So, as I said, with hypertension, lower your salt, lower your MSG, stay away from sausage and processed meats like salami, corned beef, tuna, sardine, cheeses having a lot of salt. So we're talking mozzarella, cheddar. We're going to stay away from waist measurement is at the belly button. The belly button is where the waist is located. That's where we measure. We have hip to waist ratio, which is also used, which is more effective. But a simple measurement, just measure at the waist. So I want you to understand that, as I mentioned, so MSG, salt, processed food. We're talking corned beef, cheddar. You see cheese tricks? Stay away from that. Also, caffeinated beverages. So we're talking Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Arizona, Boom, Red Bull, Guinness, Smirnoff. Tuna can be bad to eat. I can't say anything though, Marva, because yesterday I actually ate a lot of tuna. But tuna's packed with salt because it's packaged with salt to preserve it. So I ate a lot of canned tuna yesterday. And I only ate it because I did not want the breakfast, the regular breakfast of I was just getting tired of eating stewed chicken and yam. I don't know. Just yesterday, just had a change of mind. So I went to the supermarket before I went to work, and I just got a couple cans of tuna, which would give you 30 grams of protein, and I consumed it. But tuna's packed with salt, sardines packed with salt, corned beef is packed with salt, cheese, as I mentioned, salted nuts, obviously, because it's called salted nuts. Also, as I mentioned, caffeinated beverages, coffee. You have to be on the side of caution with that. Exercise. As I've said throughout this entire broadcast, you have to exercise. And you have to challenge yourself. If you have pain, there are exercises you can do. Exercises you can do to help yourself, but you cannot sit down and say, okay, I have pain, and then I don't want to do anything. There are exercises that can help. I've had people approach me and say to me, like, Doc, right now, I have an injury. And we still go about trying to lose weight. It's possible. Dieting, you can help. You can help yourself. People with lumbar disc prolapse, a whole bunch of different things. Once you are consistent and make an effort, you can lose weight. So to recap, before we move on, the tips that I'm offering, number one, log your food. You need to know what foods will affect your pressure and your sugar and your weight. That's the only way you can learn your body. So for instance, if you eat breadfruit this week and you notice that when you step on the scale, you weigh 143, And then next week you continue to eat breadfruit and you realize that even though you are in a calorie deficit, you up to 144.5 or 145. Then you know that the breadfruit is clearly pulling in a lot of water in your body. And as a result of this, you're noticing that your weight is going up. You might have to halve the breadfruit. And that's the only way you can figure out your body. Not a guessing game. This is not a guessing game. This is science. Science that works. I'm telling you, fitness experts use these techniques and have been using these techniques for years. I've been in the fitness, directly and indirectly in the fitness industry from I was 16 years old. That's a long time, long enough ago. So some of the people that I looked up to, from when they were competing, they have all of their meals written down, what they were eating when they were competing in bodybuilding. So I want you to think about it. If they are what we would call genetic freaks, as it were, and they still had to be careful what they ate, they had to try to figure out what works with them. Why do you think that you don't have to do the same? You have to write down what you eat or know what you eat. I remember even recently I was asking someone, what did you eat yesterday? And the person could not tell me. And I'm looking at them like, it was yesterday. So you don't know what you ate yesterday? Think about it. You should be able to tell me what you ate yesterday, what you drank yesterday, how much you drank. And if you can't remember, you need to write it down. So that's tip 1. Tip 2, it really is. And if you're able to eat healthy, you will notice that your body will feel different. I have a cousin that told me recently that they tried, which I'm going to try tomorrow again, sea moss. Sea moss. They buy it and they boil it and stuff. And he said to me, he ate it and he felt like Superman. That's how he figured out his body. It doesn't mean that when I go and eat it that I'm going to feel the same way, but he has figured out a formula. Maybe his body was deficient in iodine, and now he's realizing that consuming that helps him, and he feels really energetic. I notice that when I eat certain products, like for instance, if I eat a lot of rice, I feel sluggish. If I eat certain fruits before a workout, I feel energetic, especially like soursop and banana. If I eat those before a workout, I'm very energized. If I eat fried foods, I feel lethargic. I feel very sleepy. I can't function. That's how my body functions. I can't explain it. Soybean oil would slow me down. If I eat whole wheat bread, and it sounds funny, if I eat whole wheat bread, I will feel lethargic. Go to 1 second. Go to mommy. Sorry about that. If I eat whole wheat bread, I will feel lethargic. Also, I have noticed that certain foods, like certain beverages, would make me feel uneasy. So, for instance, if I drink coffee, my heart speeds up, which is normal for coffee. But if some people are hyper responders to caffeine. So when I was in university, I think I drank a lot of coffee to stay up to study and burn the midnight oil to be able to process more information to pass my exams. So certain foods don't function with me now. So for instance, now if I drink coffee, headache, heart beating fast, it's just terrible. But there was a time that I could drink those stuff. So you have to write down and figure out what works for you. And that's why, like, even when I talk to my clients or people who want to sign up for the program, there are times when I can tell when a person is serious about joining the program. Like, they'll come and say to me, Doc, I want to lose 50 pounds. And I'm looking at them and I say, okay, what did you eat? Do you have any allergies? Do you have any food restrictions? Do you have any medical conditions? People don't know what they take sometimes. People don't know what they eat. As I mentioned, they say they don't have any allergies. And then they can just tell from how the conversation goes that they got a surge of adrenaline to message me to start the program. And then right afterwards, it's like they said, I can't bother with dieting. And that's the issue. So then now, this is the irony of life. What will happen is if you're diabetic and you message me, knowing that I could help, and then something happens later on, and you end up with a complication at the hospital, and you probably will sit down in the hospital and complain that the doctors are moving too slow. when the doctors are dealing with 15 diabetics who didn't take their medications for 2-3 months. Tell me how this makes sense. It's a vicious cycle. We can change this. We can change this. We can change this. We can really change this. So we have to make the effort to lose weight. Even if we don't sign up for my plan, I'm not, as the Jamaicans would say, I'm in a business. I just want you to lose weight. Just lose weight. It's a time now is to lose weight. We need to get more healthy. I'm tired of reading books about our health. Another tip, as I mentioned, so you log your food, don't overcook your vegetables, exercise, don't smoke, don't drink, or you can drink a small amount. You also need to sleep 7 to 8 hours. Don't break up your sleep pattern. Consume a lot of leafy vegetables. Fish, as the Japanese love their fish, lots of fish. Cook your fish. Also, worm yourself. Because a lot of people neglect taking Zental or albendazole, which is to help remove parasites from the body. People prefer to use bush, but I'll tell you this. If you are a person who eats out all the time and you undercook your meat, you could very well have a parasite in your system. So there's nothing wrong with consuming or taking every 4 to 6 months Zental. I don't see any reason why you can't take Zental every 4 to 6 months. It's over the counter. Hi, Shania. Nice. Thanks for joining. You can take Zental every 6 months. I mean, it's not scientifically backed, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's pretty safe. And if you do have parasites, it could serve you well. I don't know if you've ever watched Parasites Living Inside, which is like a show that comes over on Discovery, I think. People generally have a lot of parasites, and funny enough, I think Japan, because they eat a lot of fish, they actually have a lot of parasites or pinworms in their intestines. So there's nothing wrong with taking it. Okay. So if you're a person who travels, eats out a lot, deworm yourself. Do stool tests. You can do stool for ovum parasites as well too, and you can do fecal occult blood every now and then too. Well, it's supposed to be yearly. Eating regularly can also have a positive impact on your bowel action. So I've had clients tell me that they were constipated before. Whichever country you're in, ask them for albendazole. That's the active ingredient in Zental. So albendazole, you can consume that 1 dose, either in pills or liquid. I deworm my whole family. And it's not, as I said, it's not scientifically backed, but it doesn't mean that it's harmful either. So Japan has a high incidence of pinworms and intestinal parasites, and I suspect it's as a result of eating a lot of raw fish. So I don't recommend raw fish. But in the US, they have Zental, I'm not certain if you need a prescription. I mean, you don't need a prescription for Allegra in the US, so I don't see why you should need a prescription for albendazole. I mean, we get Zental here over the counter in Jamaica. So I'm not certain. Maybe it's the state that you live in. Here's another thing that I want you to do as well, if you're diabetic. I want you to get your HbA1c done every 3 months. That way, it's every 3 months. So you would know your control for the previous 3 months. That way, you can track how you are really doing. Because sticking your finger every morning, yes, that's good, but it doesn't tell us how the control has been throughout the days and throughout the months. It tells us how your sugar is at that point in time. So the HbA1c is very, very important to do every 3 months. Your blood pressure as well too, morning and evening. Sit down, rest yourself, do your blood pressure, and figure out what is, you have to figure out what foods trigger your blood pressure to rise, and also if it's stable, if it's stress, you have to try to figure your body out. It's like a Rubik's Cube. Your body's a Rubik's Cube, and you're trying to figure out what works for you. Here are some other tips too. Your teeth. Please floss, especially if you are diabetic. In fact, I would tell you, look on YouTube and find out how you can floss properly. Because flossing is not simply just taking the floss and putting it between your teeth. And it might sound like I'm diverging, but I'll say this. I cannot tell you how many diabetics come to the office that I work at sometimes, and they have no teeth. 40 years old, no teeth. 35, 36, 38, no teeth. Funny enough, this is the only time I ever see women dominate this statistic. It's mostly women, no teeth. 40, no teeth. 45, no teeth. No, that does not have to be. It does not have to be that way. There are so many people now in their 70s that actually have teeth because they cared for their teeth as they get older. Your teeth are important. Do whatever you can to keep your teeth. Diabetics have issues with periodontal disease, but did you know that the health of your gums can have a direct impact on your overall blood sugar? So if your gum health is poor, your blood sugar can actually be affected by your gum health being poor. So if you have wobbly teeth, your sugar could be offset by that. So you need to go to a dentist as soon as possible. If you're in the States, please, I hope you have insurance. Go to a dentist as well, because a lot of insurance policies cover the dental visit as well. These are the tips that I want you to, and your eyes are important. You can lose your sight with diabetes and hypertension very easily. Another thing too, skin rashes. A lot of diabetics have rashes on their skin, especially if they're uncontrolled. They are predisposed to fungi in and out of their body. So we're talking inside of their private areas or outside as well too. A lot of diabetic men have issues with impotence, and again, that comes with being uncontrolled, because they're actually diabetics that I know that are controlled men, very few, but they are men and they have no issues. They've never complained to me. They've said they're good. Another thing too, diabetic neuropathy. Ask any diabetic who has neuropathy. It's one of the hardest things to control. So why on earth would you not do everything you possibly can to prevent yourself from developing neuropathy? I know so many diabetics right now suffering with diabetic neuropathy. It's hard to treat. It's so hard to treat. And you have to ensure that you control your sugar so that you don't develop any of these complications. You can live a fairly normal life with diabetes as long as you understand what you have to do to prevent yourself from developing complications. Once your sight goes, that's a wrap. Once your teeth go, that's a wrap. Because once the bone height, let me tell you something. You might think, okay, when my teeth go, I can get implants. But implants are another issue too, because if you get the implants in your mouth and your bone height is not good, then you have to undergo surgery. And if you have to undergo surgery and your sugar is high and your blood pressure is high, all that's complications that can develop, because if your sugar is high, you run the risk of wound infections, and you don't want infections in your mouth. Lots of blood vessels in there, infections will spread quickly. Same thing with your eyes. If your sugar is high, they're not going to operate. If your pressure is high, they're not going to operate. For the simple reason, if your eye is sterile, you introduce any bacteria, especially once you're operating, and then your immune system is poor, the moment that you do that there, it is lights out. You can lose vision in your eye. I've seen this happen before. So you need to control your sugar, even if you think that, okay, I can just do a procedure and get my eyes fixed. No. Nope. They're not operating on you if your sugar is high. They will not. Or your pressure, because they're not going to risk their license for you or anyone else. There's an association with diabetes and breast cancer as well. You need to make sure you do your self-breast exams, do your pap smears, do your colonoscopies, check your stool, look back. When you do your stool in the toilet, look back, check your pee. Also, men need to be aware of their streams as well. I find like a lot of men don't really know if their stream is weakened, but you need to know. And peeing 3 and 4 times at night, that's not normal. So another thing you need to look out for. And I think I've covered all of what I wanted to cover. I just wanted to make sure that you have these tips. Please like this video, share it. If you just joined, you can rewatch. I'm going to post it and you can rewatch it. but like and share it and help whoever is around you to lose 100 pounds if you need to lose it. Thanks for joining, guys, and look out for more live videos. Oh, any questions? Any questions from anyone? All right, no questions. Bye-bye, guys.